Do you have any evidence that Mr. Stillwell has ever touched any of these firearms?
I do not.
Okay. Do you have any evidence, ballistically, any of these firearms were ever used in the Shamal Drinks homicide?
There wasn't, but I'm not aware of any evidence that it was.
And do you have any evidence, ballistically or otherwise, that any of these guns were used in the January 10, 2015 shooting of Donovan Thomas?
I do not.
If you're new, make sure y'all hit that notification bell, that like, share, comment, and subscribe. Grab a seat. We finna dig deep.
What's up, YouTube family? Welcome back to the channel. As always, I'm your host, Jay. And man, y'all know we got to dig deep into this YSL RICO trial update. In this video, we're going to definitely go through how the defense shredded the actual state's narrative when it came to the fingerprints being led and investigated by the lead detective, Detective Belknap. But ask yourself this, with the state using this witness up here to actually help paint that narrative, was the defense actually ready to shred the narrative apart? Before we dig deep, man, y'all make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. Definitely tap that notification bell so you'll get the drop whenever we drop. Y'all ready? Let's dig.
Later on, I followed up on the E-trace, the further investigation of the firearm, and was advised that the weapon had not been traced back to an original purchaser. I reviewed both my report and the photographs of the weapon and realized that due to some damage to the serial number on the weapon, which had been heavily scratched, that I had mistakenly identified one of the digits or one of the characters on the serial number from the weapon. I was able to go back, make that correction, and then complete the E-trace report and locate the actual origination of the firearm.
With that further investigation, looking at that firearm now, is that the firearm that you collected from Investigator Flickner on March 17, 2022?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this time, the state moves to tender into evidence 220 Victor at this time.
Okay. All right, that's admitted.
And Investigator Belknap, was that firearm, when you had mentioned the E-trace, was that firearm, did you check it to see if it was ever reported stolen?
I did.
And what did you find?
I contacted the original purchaser of the weapon, who advised that he had sold the weapon in a third-party sale to another party, but did have contact information for the purchaser. I then contacted that person, who advised that the weapon had been stolen from him, and an Atlanta Police Department report had been made at the time of the theft.
And did you transport that firearm back to APD property as well?
I did. At the time of recovery, I did.
Now, after you come back to APD property, did you ever take out any additional arrest warrants?
I did.
What were the arrest warrants that you took out?
I took out additional arrest warrants, if I may refresh my memory.
You may.
Additional arrest warrants for Mr. Jackson for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, possession of a Schedule II controlled substance with intent to distribute, and 3 counts of
Yes.
Okay, so the state came out to play today, and let me break it down. Now, this detective, as you see, he's definitely willing to testify and ready to testify, which means he was clearly what? Prepped by the state. But ask yourself this, will this witness actually be the one to help the state settle this case? Or will the defense actually show the state that this witness was just another mistake? Let's dig.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we get started back with the testimony, I just wanted to let y'all know to disregard the witness's comment about a warrant being taken for Mr. Stillwell for drugs. Go ahead, Mr. Atkins.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Detective Belknap, you never took out any warrants for any of the drugs related to that book bag as it pertains to Shannon Stillwell, did you?
No, sir, I did not.
Did you take out gang warrants?
I did.
And did you take out firearm and gang warrants as well on Mr. Nichols?
I did.
No further questions. Thank you, Detective Belknap.
Yes, sir.
All right, great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Okay. I just want to clear something up. And I'm speaking about, I'm not going to go through individually. I'm talking about all 6 firearms. And you collected those firearms and brought them into property, into evidence to preserve for further investigation, correct?
I did.
Okay. Those 2 guns, either the 5.7 and the 45, do you have any ballistic evidence linking those guns to the January 10, 2015 shooting of Donovan Thomas?
I didn't conduct any ballistics investigations on the firearms, so I don't have any ballistics evidence related to these.
Do you have any evidence that connects them to the January 10 shooting of Donovan Thomas as we sit here today?
I do not.
Okay. And how about, and let me ask you, okay, and how about this? Those two guns, the 5.7 and the 45, do you have any ballistic evidence that connects those guns to the March 14, 2017 shooting of Shamel Drinks?
I don't have ballistic evidence of any kind related to these weapons.
In fact, neither the 5.7 or the 45 even shoots 40 caliber. They're not capable of shooting 40 caliber rounds, are they?
Neither is chambered to shoot a 40 caliber round.
So let's not sugarcoat. Now, in my opinion, I feel like this actual witness testimony was on the verge of actual being biased. Now, he wasn't actually just presenting facts. He was actually making a case to the jury like he's the actual prosecutor himself. Now, every one of his answers were carefully crafted, almost like he was reading from a script. As you see, the defense definitely wasn't having it. A 40 shooting 45s, a 45 shooting 40s, a 9 shooting a 45, a 45 shooting a 9.
And
Man,
Investigator
is it
Belknap,
safe to say
was
403
that
for the state
firearm
still starting with their witness and wasting time? Let's dig.
You, just a couple more questions. You indicated that Detective Hogan had you look at the video for the FedEx to identify Mr. Stillwell and also Mr. Nichols, correct?
I reviewed the video at some point. I believe that what I initially saw were some of the social media photos of Mr. Nichols. I don't remember what I saw initially.
Did you review the BP video at some point?
At some point, yes.
Okay, this is what I want to know. Did you ever review with Detective Hogan or by yourself the FedEx video from March 14, 2017? Excuse me, March 14, 2022.
I don't recall if I ever reviewed that video or not.
Okay, so you're not even certain if you've ever seen that video.
I don't know. I'm not certain if I have or not.
All right, thank you. No further questions.
Redirect. Okay. Sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have met. It's good to see you again.
Yes, sir, you too.
So I have some questions about what you said today. You mentioned that to Mr. Shart that Mr. Kendrick was present in the house at Allison Drive on May 9th, 2022, correct?
I don't recall exactly what his question was, but yes,
Okay. Did you actually see Mr. Kendrick in the house?
I did not.
Okay. The 6 guns that were found in that house, in Mr. Williams' house, do you have any evidence that Mr. Kendrick was ever in possession of those 6 guns?
I do not.
Do you have any evidence that he was anywhere near those 6 guns?
I do not.
Did you take part in the inventory, possession, or transport of the jewelry that was found in Mr. Williams' home?
My role during the search was to take photographs of evidence as it was recovered.
Do you recall there being 2 Richard Mille watches in Mr. Williams' home?
I don't know if I would know those if I saw them, so I don't know if there were 2 or not.
Okay. Do you recall seeing it's a Richard Mille brand. I understand you don't know what that brand would look like, but do you recall seeing a white ceramic watch with a pink band in the jewelry that you collected, or that was collected in that home?
I believe one was. Do I remember seeing it? I certainly don't a couple years later.
Okay. If a Richard Mille RM055 Bubba Watson white ceramic watch is not present in property today, do you know what happened to that watch?
I wouldn't have any idea.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Now, you definitely got to salute Weinstein and his approach. Came straight up here, got right to it, and cleared the air before he left. Now, interesting with his client, what did he do? Made sure that he distinguished the fact that the actual investigator had no fingerprints and no transport of the firearms, no connection to them. Definitely got to salute. Now, even on top of that, why the judge and the witness, as well as the DA up here acting like they don't know what time it is? Everybody in the courtroom know what time it is. Who got that watch? Let's dig.
Detective Belknap, on cross, you were asked by defense counsel about the May 9th search of Jeffrey Williams' home. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
Now, you actually were the photographer of those crime scene photographs we walked through, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
Now, you remember being asked questions about, I believe it was the 6 firearms that you found in that house.
Yes, sir.
And if they have any ballistic evidence to the March 14, 2022 murder of Shamel Drinks. Do you
Correct.
recall that?
Yes.
Now, how many months later was this search from March 14th, 2022?
That'd be 2 months later.
Was Demekion Garlington arrested on May 9th, 2022 at Jeffrey Williams' home?
He was not.
Was Shannon Stillwell arrested on May 9th, 2022 in Jeffrey Williams' home?
No, he was not.
What about Miles Farley?
He was not.
What about Carmavius Nichols?
He was not.
Now, I want to also ask you as the photographer, I'm going to publish what's marked as 64 X-ray. It's going to come up on the big screen and on your computer. Is this one of the photographs that you took?
It appears to be.
I'm going to go to 65 X-ray. Is this one of the photographs that you took?
It is.
Why did you take this photograph?
In documenting this scene, we saw this pamphlet for Mr. McMiller's funeral. Mr. McMiller was associated with YSL, with Mr. Williams, and had been shot and killed.
What was the date that he was murdered?
It was March 11th of 2022.
And do you recall if that murder was on, is that a house or on a highway?
It was on the highway.
Is it, I don't have a pointer, but on this whiteboard, is that March 11th, 2022 and I-75-85?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
And was Shamel Drinks murdered how many days after March 11th?
I believe it was 3 days later.
Now, I want to ask you about, thank you, Mr. Body. You were asked on cross by defense counsel about a watch. Do you remember that?
I do.
Now, I'm just going to come out and ask you because we've been dancing around it. Did you steal any watch or know of any APD personnel who stole any item from that house?
Absolutely not.
Can you tell the jury the protocols that are in place when you document, was everyone wearing body cam?
They were.
And can you describe for the jury the process y'all have when you go through that large amount of evidence on a scene like that? In terms of, do you video when you're putting it into property?
Yes, usually our body cameras will be running during the search of the home, during the transport, and at property when submitting property.
And were you all on scene or working that case for a short time or a long time?
We were out there for several hours.
One brief moment, Your Honor. No further questions. Thank you, Detective Belknap.
All right, any recross?
Okay. Now, I'm not going to say he cooked, but I will say that he went in the kitchen and turned the stove on low. Very low. Now, here's why I say that. Right in front of the jury, what did he do? He actually painted a picture of retaliation from this incident with the demise of one of the YSL associates, Mr. McMillan. But even more interesting what he did was he actually pointed right out in front of the jury again that none of these defendants were actually arrested for this actual situation or this incident. Now, the funny thing he did was when he brought up that Richard Miller watch. Now, I'm not convinced at all that the state doesn't have the watch, but he is very convincing because we all know that he doesn't have the watch. But it's interesting. If you really want to be more convincing, go get the actual evidence and show us the watch. Now, that's all you have to do instead. But watch this. Let's see what the defense said. Let's dig.
You were asked on redirect if you're aware of any member of the APD that would have stolen this particular watch I asked you about, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you have full and total knowledge of all the activities of members of APD?
I don't.
If this particular watch, this Richard Mille watch, ceramic watch, is present in a photograph from Jeffrey Williams' home and it is no longer present in property right now, could anything have happened to that watch other than it have been stolen or lost?
Well, no, not every item that we photograph is ultimately taken as evidence. And I think there are probably a broad number of possibilities of what could have happened to that watch other than it being stolen or lost.
Is it the practice of your office to leave behind a $500,000 watch when you're seizing jewelry?
I don't know that I can answer that as far as practices go. I have no idea the value of this watch that we're discussing, so I'm woefully uneducated as far as that goes. And I can tell you that, unfortunately, as diligent as we are, sometimes even evidence is left behind at scenes. In this case, I don't have any specific information about this particular watch.
Can you explain to the jury the procedure when you go about seizing a vehicle, such as was seized at Jeffrey Williams' home?
As far as the procedure, we would call a tow truck to come and tow that vehicle to another location.
Is there any searching of the vehicle and inventorying of property within that vehicle at the time of the seizure?
It can depend on the scene and if there's a search warrant for the vehicle or if the vehicle is accessible. Sometimes the keys may not be present, can't access a vehicle, and sometimes it's towed to a secure location to conduct an inventory or further processing of that vehicle.
If the vehicle is accessible at the scene and you have a warrant that allows you to enter that vehicle, what's the procedure for what you do with the contents of the vehicle?
Typically, those contents would be cataloged, valuable items may be secured, evidence may be seized.
Is the procedure to leave valuable items within the vehicle?
Not typically, and again, that could be case dependent if the vehicle is going to be removed to another secure location for further processing.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you for your time. You are excused.
Okay. So the state's whole situation and position with this actual witness was actually just for him to actually paint the picture of retaliation and the actual possession of these 6 firearms. But what's even more interesting is that none of these actual defendants were ever caught in possession of the firearms. Even deeper, none of the ballistics actually match any of the defendants that they're actually even speaking on. And you telling me that we wasted all this time waiting on this actual witness to come up here for the state, to come up here and say this? No ballistic match, no evidence, no fingerprints, no trace? Man, can somebody say 403? Waste of a whole witness and time by the state? So let's dig. Now, what the defense do? Another big W in my personal opinion. Because in front of the jury, what they do, actually show and prove that this is another witness of an investigation from the state that they're introducing that was also inconclusive. No ballistics, no fingerprint match, nothing tied to these actual defendants. But again, remember the state is working off the theory of conspiracy. So if these other defendants have played out, you got to pay attention to what the state is actually introducing now. See, the stuff that they're actually introducing now is actually just to save face and actually try to paint that narrative that these defendants were just not necessarily responsible. Well, SB, they want to say that SB is responsible. When it comes to Yak, they want to say that they don't have to be responsible. It just has to be premeditated thought. So to show that they're all in one place, one location, was that firearms located at the location, but the defense wins. Why? Because none of the defendants involved in the trial were actually in possession. So again, in my personal opinion, another wasted witness. So the state actually should just throw in the towel. But again, we got to definitely break down the next witness that came to trial. Man, y'all jump in the comments, let me know who got the watch. Now, for this actual witness to have to sit up and admit in front of the jury that, hey, my results were inconclusive at its best, ask yourself this: did the state actually just pass? I actually failed that test. Man, y'all jump in the comments, let me know y'all's thoughts. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Tap that notification bell so you'll get these exclusive drops. Tap the like button if you actually enjoyed the content. New video on the way. We got to talk about the next witness that came up here by the state. Again, I'm your host, Jay, and remember, the life you save might be your very own. Until next time, I'm your host, Jay. Gone.